Okay, so have you ever thought about like how the way you breathe could be changing the shape of your face?
Wow.
Even how you chew. Yeah.
It sounds crazy, right?
It does sound kind of out there. Yeah.
It's kind of wild, and that's what we're looking at today.
Okay.
This video by a neuroscientist who's saying some pretty interesting things about facial structure.
It is a really fascinating perspective, I think, because we're so used to thinking about like skincare and makeup and maybe even like, cosmetic procedures. But he's really saying that the way we use our faces every day, like those little habits, can actually have a big impact over time.
He really goes deep on mouth breathing versus nose breathing.
Yeah.
And it's not just like when your nose is stuffed up.
Right.
He's saying that like chronic mouth breathing can actually lead to droopy features.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And then nose breathing can help you develop a more defined look, like a sculpted look.
Right.
He even uses the term model-esque.
Interesting.
High cheekbones, strong jawline. Yeah, the kind of features that we kind of associate with people on the runway.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I think is so interesting is he's not just like speculating about this. He's actually backing this up with some pretty interesting evidence. Like, do you remember that story he tells about the young girl with the allergies?
Oh, yeah. The one who started mouth breathing because of her allergies and her face like seemingly aged really rapidly.
Right. And think about why that might be. Nose breathing forces air through the sinuses, right? Yeah. Which are these little filters that warm and humidify the air, and that creates resistance, which could over time strengthen the muscles in the face and contribute to that more toned look.
Okay.
Mouth breathing bypasses all of that and can lead to, as he puts it, floppy facial muscles.
Yeah, he showed like before and after pictures of her.
He did.
And it was really dramatic, the difference.
It's pretty amazing.
It really makes you wonder, like, have you noticed anyone who chronically mouth breathes? And if there's a difference in their facial structure, like think about people, maybe even yourself. Do you see a connection?
It's definitely something to start paying attention to, for sure. And he doesn't stop there. He also talks about this book, Jaws, a hidden epidemic, which argues that our modern diet of like soft foods is leading to weaker jaw muscles and less defined jawlines.
Wait, so you're telling me that chewing on a carrot stick is like a workout for my face?
Well, in a way, yes. Think about it. Our ancestors, they had to really work for their food, chewing through tough meats and fibrous vegetables, all that good stuff. And all that chewing wasn't just about digestion. It was literally shaping their faces.
Wow.
The book argues that strong jaw muscles actually influence the development of the entire lower third of the face, from the jawline to the cheekbone.
Okay, I see the connection.
Yeah.
He brought up a twin study from the book, right?
Exactly. One twin grew up eating like a traditional diet, lots of hard, chewy foods. The other twin, mostly soft, processed foods. Guess what? The twin who chewed more had a way more defined jawline and better facial structure overall. Like, it's pretty wild. The visuals that he uses in the video are really striking.
It makes you think about the consequences of our modern diets.
Yeah.
Like we're trading flavor and texture for maybe like a weaker jawline.
It's a real possibility.
Yeah.
And he brings up some fascinating historical context too. Like, he talks about how people from earlier eras, mummies and historical figures, often had much better teeth and facial structure.
Right. And he was saying that their diets required way more chewing than ours do.
Yeah.
And that probably played a role in their strong features.
And it's not just about aesthetics either. Chewing hard foods also helps with saliva production, which is important for digestion, and even helps protect your teeth from decay.
It's all connected.
It really is.
What's interesting about this whole deep dive is that it's making us question all these assumptions we have about beauty and aging. We often think it's all about genetics or like expensive treatments, but maybe it's really these like simple everyday habits that we're overlooking.
Right. And it's like he's saying we might have a lot more control over how we look than we think.
So ditch the smoothies. Go back to chewing on bones like our caveman ancestors.
Well, hold on. Maybe not bones.
Okay.
But like incorporating some tougher, chewier foods into your diet that can't hurt crunchy fruits and veggies and nuts, even just choosing a steak over a burger once in a while.
Right.
It's about giving those jaw muscles a workout.
Yeah, I'm looking at my lunch salad in a whole new way now.
Yeah.
But he doesn't just talk about food, right?
No.
He talks about oral hygiene too.
Absolutely.
And how that's like tied into all this.
And it's not just about having a nice white smile either. He makes a really compelling case for how the bacteria in your mouth can actually affect your overall health.
Yeah, he mentioned something about that bacteria getting into your bloodstream.
Right.
And causing problems in your body.
Exactly. He even linked poor oral hygiene to heart health, which I found pretty surprising.
Me too. I mean, he admits to not being the best flosser himself, and I'm right there with him. It's such a chore.
It is.
But he also talked about these people who brush their teeth 3 times a day, and he's like, pretty impressed by their dedication.
Yeah, I think it's all about finding that balance, right? Not going overboard, but making sure you're taking care of your teeth and your gums.
Exactly. And it's not just about brushing and flossing. It's also about what you eat.
Of course.
Sugary drinks and processed foods are basically creating a breeding ground for all that bad bacteria.
Yeah.
And fiber-rich fruits and veggies can actually help scrub your teeth clean.
That's right.
So we're back to the healthy eating habits.
It all comes back around.
It really does all seem connected. It's not just about vanity. It's about taking care of yourself inside and out.
Absolutely.
But before we go too far, he does say that genetics play a role too, right?
Of course.
Like not everyone can achieve that perfect model-esque look just by chewing carrots and stuff.
Well, he makes it clear that genetics are a factor, but his point is that we can optimize what we've got.
Okay.
It's about working with what nature gave you and making the most of it.
I like that. So not ditching the skincare routine just yet.
No.
But maybe adding in some extra crunch to my diet and being more mindful of how I breathe.
Exactly. And you know what I find really interesting about all of this is that he even mentions these tools like Jawline.
Whoa.
Yeah, these mouthpieces that are designed to work out your jaw muscles.
Oh, wow.
They're apparently gaining popularity, especially in Hollywood, as a way to achieve that, sculpted look.
Jawline. That's a new one.
Yeah.
But it does make sense. It speaks to the idea that our facial muscles are just like any other muscle in our body.
Exactly.
You can train them and strengthen them.
It's amazing how much emphasis we put on facial aesthetics. But I think what's most important is feeling healthy and confident in your own skin, no matter what shape your jawline takes.
Yeah, well said. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about mouth breathing versus nose breathing, the impact of chewing on facial structure, the importance of good oral hygiene.
That's a lot.
That's a lot to process.
It is, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, There's so much more to explore when it comes to the connection between our habits and our physical appearance.
Yeah.
But before we get too deep into all those details, let's take a step back and think about what this all means for you.
That's a great point. We've thrown a lot of information at you guys.
Yeah.
So what resonates with you?
Yeah.
What stands out as most surprising or maybe something you want to try incorporating into your own life?
I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. What's sparking your curiosity?
I have to admit, I'm kind of getting obsessed with this whole facial structure thing.
Really?
I catch myself nose breathing more often now.
Yeah.
And I even swapped my afternoon smoothie for a bag of almonds.
Well, that's the beauty of a deep dive like this. It makes you look at your everyday habits in a whole new light.
It really does.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe those almonds will give my jawline a little extra definition.
Maybe so.
Fingers crossed. But speaking of hope, he does say that even if you don't have the best genetics, you can still work with what you've got.
Right. He emphasizes that a lot. He's like, hey, you might not have won the genetic lottery.
Right.
But you can still optimize what you have.
Exactly. And he even brings up some examples of how people have tried to enhance their features throughout history. Remember when he talked about those ancient Mayans who would intentionally shape their skulls?
Oh, yeah. That was pretty wild.
I know, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It is.
It shows how far back this fascination with facial aesthetics goes.
For sure.
But thankfully, nowadays, we have slightly less extreme options like those Jawline he was talking about.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if I'm ready to be seen wearing one of those in public.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe not for everyday wear, but it is interesting to see how people are using technology to target those specific facial muscles.
And it goes back to that whole idea of facial muscle training.
Yeah.
You'd work out your biceps or quads.
Exactly.
You can work out your face.
That's right.
Which I never really thought about before. We spend so much time focusing on our bodies, but our faces kind of get neglected.
It's true.
But before we all run out and buy Jawline,
yeah,
let's go back to the basics.
Okay.
He emphasized good oral hygiene.
He did.
And not just for a pretty smile.
Right. It goes way beyond just brushing and flossing. He really got into the connection between oral health and your overall well-being, like how bacteria from your mouth can actually get into your bloodstream.
Yeah, that was kind of scary. I had no idea that not flossing could lead to bigger health problems.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's easy to overlook, but it really highlights how interconnected our bodies are.
Right.
He even mentioned a specific type of bacteria, Streptococcus mutans, which is linked to tooth decay. And it's also been found in arterial plaque, which suggests there might be a connection to heart disease.
Wow. Okay. I'm definitely flossing more often now.
Good.
But he also said that brushing too hard can be bad for your gums and teeth. So it's all about finding that balance.
That's right.
Right. And what I found fascinating was how he tied that back to chewing.
Yes.
He explained that chewing hard foods actually helps you produce more saliva,
Right.
which neutralizes acids in your mouth and cleans your teeth naturally.
It's like a built-in cleaning system.
It's amazing how it's all connected.
It is.
But I'm wondering about the flip side. You know, he talks about all the bad stuff with mouth breathing and soft foods. But are there any downsides to nose breathing and chewing hard foods all the time?
That's a really good question. And I think it's important to remember, do your own research.
Yeah.
Don't just take one person's word for it.
Sure.
He doesn't really talk about potential downsides, but it's always a good idea to listen to your body. Like if you start eating a lot more hard foods and your jaw starts hurting,
Yeah.
maybe ease up a bit.
Makes sense.
And with nose breathing, I mean, sometimes you just can't avoid mouth breathing, like if you have a cold or you're working out really hard.
Right, of course.
So it's about finding that sweet spot,
Right, not going to extremes.
Exactly, just making small adjustments that work for you.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to talk about one more thing that really stuck with me.
What's that?
He talked about how our modern obsession with looking young might actually be working against us.
What do you mean?
Well, he said that as we age, our features actually get more defined naturally. Like our bones become more prominent.
Right.
We lose some of that baby fat, and we actually end up looking more sculpted.
Okay.
But we're so used to thinking that wrinkles and sagging skin are bad
Yeah,
that we spend so much time and money trying to fight that process.
it's true.
And he's basically saying that maybe we're actually fighting against our own natural beauty by trying to stay looking young.
Yeah.
And it's not just about looks either.
Right.
It's about embracing all the different stages of life and recognizing that beauty can change over time.
I like that.
Like maybe those wrinkles and laugh lines are actually a sign of a life well lived.
I love that perspective. It's a good reminder to challenge those societal norms and, define beauty on your own terms.
For sure. And it brings up a good question.
Yeah.
What does aging gracefully mean to you? Is it about staying young forever?
Right.
Or is it about embracing the changes and finding beauty in every stage of life?
That's a great question for all of us to think about.
And it's the perfect lead-in to the final takeaway from this deep dive. We've learned so much, about how breathing and chewing and even taking care of our teeth can change how our faces look. But I think the biggest thing I'm taking away from all this is that beauty isn't just one thing.
Yeah.
It's not about trying to look like a model. It's about realizing that we can all kind of change and improve our looks over time.
It's like he's saying that we have more control over how we look than we think.
Totally. It's not all about genetics or going to the doctor. It's about those everyday things we do, like how we breathe, what we eat, even brushing our teeth.
Right. And that's what's so cool about all of this.
It really is.
It's not about trying to fit into some mold of what's beautiful. It's about understanding how our habits affect how we look.
Yeah.
And then choosing to do things that make us feel good about ourselves.
It's like we're taking charge of our own beauty,
Exactly. And it's not about being perfect either.
No.
It's about appreciating how we each look different and finding ways to show off what makes us unique.
Absolutely. Beauty isn't just stuck in one place.
Right.
It changes over time, just like we do.
That's a great way to put it.
So remember what we talked about today. Next time you catch yourself mouth breathing or reaching for that bag of chips, you might be surprised how you can change your own face just by making small changes.
And remember, this deep dive is just the beginning. Keep learning. Look at different ideas, and most importantly, listen to your body and what feels right for you.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today on this deep dive into the world of facial structure.
Yeah, this was fun.
We hope you learned something new and feel inspired to create your own beauty story.
See you next time.